Hey folks, this is Tristan. I'm at the shop. I'm thinking about domes. What I've done is I've set up a project table, then the table has a project board for each triangle. This is some old millwork that I had left over off of a job that I just happened to have three pieces of. My idea is to I've positively mounted the chop saws on this table and squared them and straightened them to one another. I've made the table itself out of a manufactured product, so it's not susceptible so much to shrinking and swelling. And then I've gone ahead and built the table out so that I can put what I'll call this the project board. I'm going to put a project board down on the table. The project board will have a positive lock into the table where, and then I'll drill some holes into the project board to be able to locate it on the table quickly. So basically, my thought is that for each dome, there'll be one project board for each triangle that everything will come off of. I've made a couple cuts here more than I needed to, but my approach has been this: cut everything all lengths square to square first, and then go ahead and set the saw to your angle bevels. So right now I have both of these saws at compound miters for each side of the strut that we need. And the way to cut a repeatable compound miter, because if you did this wrong, it would be easy to mess it up, but what I've done here is I've set the saw at the compound miter to go through the saw, to go through the at exactly the right thing, And as this comes through, I've nicked the inside corner of the project board. Now that I've done that, I can go ahead and set my block right to the inside corner on this side, which is where this needs to be. Now when I set my block to this and I go ahead and cut that, as long as I'm pushing down in its back, I'm guaranteed that the saw will cut exactly the right compound miter. And then I take that and I go to the other side, and on the other side we've got the same thing. We've got another saw, we've got it set at the correct compound miter, and then we've set the square with this right with the inside edge, with this edge, because this is the finished edge. This wasn't how I was doing it before, and the actual process might modify. This is what's really important, is that I'm using this square cut and the location of the blade to index the saw, both as far as depth and as far as left to right. So this square line to this square line over here are the important setups for the saw, because the saws are locked in relationship to one another. They can't move. So yeah, now that we've got it that far, we can cut an entire triangle, cut all the components for each triangle, whether it's a BAA, a BCC, or a DCC triangle. We'll have a project board for each triangle. So what that means is that once we square cut everything, and then it comes back and sits down on the miter cuts like this, and then from there it still needs to go through the table saw to be ripped along the short, the isohedral angles that it needs to be. So yeah, man, dueling chop saws and a table saw with a good setup, definitely carts. There's a 450 pieces of this if you build the walls the way I have. So it's a lot of pieces. It's a lot to take, but you know, once you get to the point that the pieces are all cut square, to actually set the pieces on the project board, set the angle bevel on the project board, and get it to repeat is easy.